Hello and welcome back.
Except a little special.
Can you not interrupt me, please?
Yeah, ruined it already.
Fucking hell. This is why we've
Keep it rolling. Keep it rolling.
Hello and welcome back to the Midlands Rugby podcast. We are on episode 14 of season 3 of the Midlands Rugby podcast. Theo, how are you doing?
Hello. Yeah, good, thank you. I'm very excited to be a special guest host.
I know.
Don't really know what it means.
It feels weird because the last person we had was a bloke called George who just mumbled for an hour and a half. So everything was dog shit. But you're here. You're excited.
I'll try to enunciate as best as possible.
Well, you are one of the poshest people we've had on this podcast due to your university.
Hey, I got there on merit. No money exchanged hands.
It was the demographic. They have to tick certain boxes, don't they?
Yeah. It's bad when I'm a diversity pick, isn't it?
Yeah. Yet another middle.
Welcome to Cambridge.
lower middle, or would you class yourself as middle? I don't know. We'll get onto that on another point.
No, he's upper middle.
Our guest has interrupted, Theo.
Yeah. Phil, you're not here yet.
Oh, sorry.
Here. It's all right, though. Theo, I will let you introduce our guest today, considering there is some form of weird family tree going on.
I've no idea who he is, in all honesty. I've never met the bloke. No. So this is young Philip. Now, actually, I should be very polite because he is now my head coach. So I need to keep him buttered up to make sure I can keep getting selected.
No doubt.
I'm sure you normally try and windle it the other way that you don't get selected.
Yeah, actually, that's true. I have tried my best.
Keep it on track, boys. Come on. Who's he played for today?
So Philip started his career at 14 at Paviers. Had a brief stint at Newark that none of us were aware about, and now consider him a traitor. Then started a professional career at Nottingham with a diversion to Durham Uni. Did a good long stint at Doncaster with some spells at both Hull clubs, and then finally back to his beloved Paviers.
Both Hull clubs. Can you just specify which ones? Because I'm sure there's more than two.
There are more than two. Well, I thought they'd merged into one, so I've already insulted them.
We could have paid for Hull
Ionians and Hull RUFC.
That's good because he's a good goalkeeper. He could have paid for Hull Football Club. You never know.
This is true. The size of his hands, he would stop a lot of goals.
Yeah.
And head.
Yeah. I was going to say something about when he holds himself, it looks even smaller than it is, but I won't. Phil, how did you start playing rugby?
Well, it's quite a nice little story, actually, this one.
We've heard it on the podcast before. Theo. No, go on, Phil.
George Billum, previous co-host on this podcast, has always been a close friend. And until I was coming on to 14, I'd never even considered playing rugby because I was just football crazy. Did everything to be a footballer I could do. And then one week, my coach let me play outfield, and we played this team called Gresley, which I think is in Leicestershire. We played them all the time because there's only like 8 teams in our league, and you played each other like 4 times in the season and then in the cup. And this lad up front was just so whingy, and he just wound me up loads. So, I mean, there's late tackles, and then what I did to him, which basically I was a good 3 foot in the air and like scorpion tackled him around the knee. So like jumped, scorpion tackled him around the legs.
Nice.
And then he started crying again.
I
got red carded.
I thought Tom was confused and he might have to reenact it for us.
Yeah, I was hinting. But all I can imagine in my head is Vinnie Jones kind of John Fashanu era tackle. So
it was worse than that. It was horrific. I got sent off. And then the following Saturday, so I used to play on Sundays. Following Saturday, I went up to the Paviers with my dad, probably to watch Nathan, I would have guessed. And George was like, "Oh, we've got a game tomorrow if you want to play. It's against the touring side, so you don't need to be signed on or anything." And I was like, "Nah, not interested. Like, don't like rugby." And my dad had obviously overheard George say it, or the guru had obviously mentioned something to my dad as well. And Dad was like, "Oh no, I think you should. You're not got football tomorrow, blah blah blah, because you've been sent off, and you might find that rugby's more your game." And I literally played this one game. I think I was playing second row, but I was like defending at fullback because I didn't really understand how to defend. So I would like get up and just run to fullback.
Were you stood between the posts protecting the goal?
No, not that bad. I was playing more sort of a centre back role, lingering back there. So yeah, I was obviously didn't have a clue what was going on, but loved like the physical side of it. And then I think I signed up to play the next week as well against Hinckley, who, from memory, were just. I mean, obviously I was quite big, but they were just the biggest people I'd ever met. Ever at my age, and they absolutely smoked us like 60-0 or something like that. And I got injured quite late on in the second half, and they had to call the rest of the game off. So it was only 60-0. It could have been a lot more because I essentially like tore all the nerves in my neck. This is my second game. I didn't learn at this point that rugby probably wasn't the sport for me with regard to injury.
That you're made of glass.
Yeah, I'm made of glass.
Yeah.
So I spent a night in the spinal ward at the QMC.
Oh, wow.
Because I couldn't move my arm.
So what you're saying is before rugby, you look like Michael Fassbender. After rugby, you look like this.
Yeah. Oh, mate, I could have been a model.
Could have been. A model for what? What would your brand have been if you were a model?
Well, I nearly said something that I definitely shouldn't be saying, so let's just move on.
I mean, we can all dwell on this question if you wish. No? Okay. Hello all, Go to you. Just taking a small break from this week's podcast just to let you know that if you want to be a guest on the Midlands Rugby podcast, all you've got to do is just slide into our DMs on either Instagram or Facebook. Or if you have the pleasure of knowing me or Phil personally, just drop us a message. Just a quick tip for those podcast editors out there. This bit was really hard to edit, so I thought if we put a mini advert in between, it acts real smooth. See if it works. So, how did the contract at Nottingham come around?
It was just
question. What more do you want me to say?
I was class.
No, it was an odd one. I was definitely like right place, right time for everything, really. So obviously, because I was big and partially coordinated, I got sort of accelerated through a lot of the stuff. So I played for county under 15s. Sort of was my fourth game ever, which was bizarre. So like fourth game ever was a 0-0 draw in a county game.
Nice.
It was brutal. It was absolutely at Newark on the second team pitch at Newark.
It wasn't a bore fest. Was it a good game though?
It was pissing it down with rain. Wind sideways. I don't think the ball got like inside either 22 in the whole game.
Oh, lush.
It was appalling. And then at the end of that season, under 15s used to do like this NLD 10s tournament. So I got selected for that. And then the year after that, sort of under 16s, did NLD again. I think I missed out on Midlands. So it all kind of happened quite quickly. And then I went on the tour to Australia with NLD, which they used to do. I don't know whether they do anymore. I don't think they do. And you used to be able to sort of pay your way onto this tour. So as soon as I heard about it, I was dead keen. And I said I did a load of work, but I didn't actually. I got in quite a bad car crash when my mate's mum was driving. I got a massive payout, so that kind of paid for half the trip, and Dad paid the other half. And then, but the team we took down there was pretty good. Quite a lot of us ended up playing professional rugby, so we did really well while we were out there. And just so happened one of the coaches who was there was part of this Nottingham academy they had started. So a load of us ended up going and joining up with them. And then it just kind of went from there. I just played there. That was at Island Avenue, as it was. Played there for sort of a year and a half. Then we moved to Lady Bay. And I think halfway into that year, Lady Bay, I was probably 17.
Wow.
We played Tigers in an academy game. I played pretty well. And the following week, I was put into train with the seniors at Nottingham. So at that point, Nottingham had like a second team called the Corsairs. And
okay.
that's where Nottingham Corsairs get their name from.
Was that Tigers game where you made an enemy of Neil Back?
Yeah, I think we've had that story as well, haven't we?
Yeah, we like it though because Neil listens now. Go and give it again.
Yeah, so in that game, I had a good game. Scored my hat-trick try sort of halfway through the second half. Put it down under the sticks. Threw the ball up in the air and shouted, "Fuck Leicester Tigers," right in front of Neil Back, who was the academy coach at the time. And then didn't think anything of it because obviously like 16, 17-year-old absolutely high as a kite on life because I've just got a hat-trick against Leicester Tigers, having not been selected to be in that academy. And then after the game, he literally like chased me across the pitch to tell me that I'd never play for Leicester Tigers.
And to be
fair
fair,
fucks, he's been right so far.
I'd say you
So far.
What, you reckon they're getting Bet's team out? So far.
I'm holding out. I'm holding out for a call-up in the Premiership Cup next year.
It's a hell of an injury crisis to come.
To be fair, who's there at the minute? Matt Everard's still there, isn't
Yeah, get in through Matty Everard.
he? If there's an injury crisis, mate. So obviously you never made it to Leicester Tigers, but you was at Notts. You had how many years did you have at Notts?
6.
6 years at Notts, and then you went where to from there?
Left Notts in 2013 and went to Doncaster
Right.
for 2 years. But Doncaster just got relegated to Nat 1, but they stayed pro for the year.
Okay, and is this
Sorry.
That's right. Is Doncaster where that you and the head coach had somewhat of a fallout? Was it Donny there, or was it somewhere else you had a fallout with the head coach?
No, that's right. Yeah, it was weird. He was just a bit of, a hard bloke to deal with, and I don't think there's many players that have been coached by him who wouldn't say the same. He was brilliant, and he was fantastic at what he did, and he coached the Welsh international team for 1 season or 2 seasons, and was their defensive coach. So he knew what he was doing. I'd come from Nottingham where we'd had Glenn Delaney, who was a proper man manager.
Yeah,
and he just knew how to talk to people and how to make people play at their best and make them feel comfortable. Griff didn't have that natural ability. Plus, I think when I first got there, he was dead keen, loved me, put me in the team straight away. I started 10 out of 10 in a row, and it was great, and he was loving it. And then I got injured, and then he literally just hated me because I was injured. And then things just got worse and worse, and yeah, it just got a bit sour. But we didn't leave on bad terms. I got offered a contract to stay with Doncaster for another 2 years, but decided that at that point I was kind of falling out of love with the professional thing, and had received a pretty good offer from Hull Ionians,
right,
to play the level below and be a player coach, which is where I thought I wanted to go with it at the time. So at 27, I think, or 26, I was player coaching in National 1.
That's very young to be coaching, isn't it? Was that weird at all? Because I presume a lot of the players were older than you.
Yeah, it was a bit weird. But to be fair to the lads at Hull Earnings, and it is a fantastic club. I can't praise that place enough. It is like a bigger Paviers in terms of financials. It is such a nice place to play. The people there are great. I loved my time there. The guys were just really respectful. I'd achieved a lot in that first 8 years of my career that I don't think I'd ever have expected to, starting at the age of 14 and defending at centre back. But they were dead respectful. I was given, like, me and another lad were sort of given the rights to the forwards. Two of the coaches sort of looked after the backs. So we had 4 coaches. Yeah, it was great. We did well to stay. We started really well because they'd just been promoted into Nat 1. We started really well. We beat Hartbury, actually, first game of the year. So we were flying, and then it kind of was one of those ones where I think we survived on the penultimate or third from last game or whatever. So yeah, it was just a really nice experience. I just got to the end of that 2 years, and we'd had Lucy, and I'd got myself another job, like finally got myself a proper job, as it were. And I'd had a few offers from other National 1 teams and Nat 2 teams. And I was just like, I can't really be bothered to run around chasing the money and half-arsing this job that I've got at home. So I kind of just thought I'll just not bother and go home and play for Pavs and work on a career that I might be able to continue sort of post. Well, I would have said 32, but I'm now 34 and I'm still playing, so 39.
So, when was it that, and this is a very question I was going to tell you, I was going to ask you this, but is this when you did the article with BBC Sport?
Yeah, that was in my... It's either the first or second season at Hull Ionians. It probably was the second, 2013, 2015. Yeah, so it would have been the second season with Hull Ionians because it was 2016 when Lucy was born.
Right, okay.
And one of the guys who used to be the media guy at Nottingham now works or did work for the BBC sports pages.
Nice.
And he messaged me and he says, I don't know whether you're about. I just want a bit of an insight into the Championship Rugby and blah, blah. So we met at the CAF in the middle of Loudham and sat down and had a chat. And we were just chatting. He goes, that's great. If you could just like go home and make some notes and send it to me, then I'll do a story on it. And I was like, yeah, I'd rather you didn't kind of like name me or blah, 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 or like use the clubs I've been at, just give examples. So I wrote some notes, and as I was writing the notes, I kind of like got into it and wrote like a 4,000 word document.
4,000 pages, Jesus!
I probably could. I could get close to 4,000 pages if I really wanted to.
Bible shorter.
And yeah, so then he basically messaged me back and said, "Oh, that's class. I'm just going to tidy up the grammar, obviously, and then we'll publish that if you're happy to have all your names on it and stuff." And I was like, "Yeah, why not?" And got a bit of a mixed response.
So, I mean, we talk on this pod a lot, and the article was 2017, right? So that was 6 years ago. Coming up 6 years, July 2017. You write, and this is the last paragraph, and this is proper probing. But as a player, I question why the Championship is not more established, a more established professional competition. Considering the RFU is supposedly the wealthiest national governing body in the world rugby, I do find it concerning that the organisation is unable to create and maintain 2 tiers of professional, well-funded, well-managed, and well-structured rugby. Clearly, they never read this fucking article, did they, mate?
It's been for years, Tom.
I thought this was a new on venture. Let's start our own union, but even then, you highlight. Are you not the Oracle of rugby?
Not the Oracle.
Oh right, okay. Just foresaw what's going to happen.
Just understand business and how it should be run, and the RFU aren't good at it, basically.
So
I've always thought it, and that was one of my reasons I left Doncaster was, I know Doncaster were doing their best to pay the players what they deserve, but they can only pay players the amount of money that they have available to them, and they can't be stretched. You can't risk it. Doncaster got a fantastic setup, as most will know, that they've got like 5 function rooms that they sell out all week to different people and make money out of that. And then now they've got the 4G, they make a bit of money out of that. So Doncaster's a well-run club. and they should have been promoted the other year or had a chance to be promoted the other year, and the RFU have shafted them when they've earned their way to that place. Ealing's similar, but if you've got the owner of Trailfinders backing you should be able to do all right. But Doncaster's been done by the club and worked really hard, and Doncaster basically said to me, "Oh, we're going to pay you the same as you have had for the last 2 years." And I was thinking about starting a family, and moving forward in my life, and what I was getting paid there wasn't enough to allow us to do that. So I had to make the decision and go and earn more money by working with Hull Ionians and getting paid a salary there, but also finding other incomes to sort of, allow me to move on with my life. I couldn't have got to our age now, and I wouldn't have wanted to wait to have kids until I was my age now, where I'm earning enough to actually pay for them. So it was kind of like a big choice for me, but it's one that I stick by, and I think I made the right decision personally.
I think you did as well. But do you think that clubs like Donny and other clubs out there who are around that, where people go, if they just push, they could get Prem, do you think that will then completely ruin some of these clubs? Not financially, but someone like Donny, where it's so well run and everyone's so close-knit, would going up to the Prem and having to bring in these players that have never played around Doncaster before, and that kind of exposure, does it completely change it?
It will change the club a bit. The club is like I say, it's a big community club.
Yeah,
that's all it is. It's not fancy. You don't have this like segregation between players and fans. It's a proper nice place to play. Like, people from Doncaster are your classic South Yorkshiremen. They like rugby played a certain way, and they'll let you know if they don't like it in the bar or during the game. So it's a lovely place to play, but I don't think it'll ruin it. I think rugby's fucked. Like, there's no other way to describe it. The RFU have managed to destroy the community game. They're destroying National One and the Championship slowly by making it harder and harder for these clubs to succeed. They obviously fucking the Premiership as well, because 2 of the teams had to drop out this year. Like, and London Irish don't look like they're in a great position.
Yeah.
Something's got to be done. And the RFU are sat there on a shitload of money and spending 60 plus million on a World Cup year for the England squad. What are we doing? What's going on? Why isn't somebody doing something? Why are we letting this absolute moron run the RFU, who obviously doesn't give a fuck about anything but the national side?
No, but like, for me, there's been, be tactful, Tom. There's clubs out there who would like to run their club more of a business than they are whatever, and the RFU seem to think they're doing that. I mean, you two are much more, I'm going to say, money-minded, in the sense of, you understand it, I spend it. Theo, you must have an opinion on what's going on with the cash in the rugby at the minute.
I don't. It's almost to play devil's advocate a bit. I think.
Oh, we don't. No, hang on. We don't do this on this podcast. Where the fuck do you think we are? This is not Rugby Union Weekly, right?
No, but I do think there is. It is kind of an issue with English rugby that the national team is incredibly well supported, but clubs aren't as well followed. And that's not just in England, that is in most countries. I think France is the only country that can support a professional second division. And you look at Wales, Scotland, Ireland, they have to have its provincial teams, and they're funded by the union, and it's all funded by central profits. So I guess the question would be, in England, would we want to go to that model? And in that way, you would lose a lot of identity of rugby clubs. Or do we have to find a way that actual Premiership and Championship clubs can be self-sustaining? And that isn't just a matter for the RFU.
No, I don't think it is. And I'd say, I go back to it all the time, and I've mentioned this to Tom multiple times about starting a new union or a new competition or whatever. The best rugby to watch, and that's what rugby is for, it's an entertainment, is the Super Rugby. And that is basically what they've got, is they've got a club system that feeds into essentially a provisional system that then is the professional part. The club system is sort of semi-pro at the top end, and then it filters all the way down from there. I think there has to be like a creaming of the best out of the club sections, and you then have to change the period of play. The amount of 4G pitches we've got in this country now, we could have club rugby going from September to February.
Yeah.
Play a nice, good club competition then, and then March, April, and May could be this nouveau Super Rugby style competition. Post Six Nations or whatever, and that would bring a new level, and then there'd be shed loads of money in that because the TV would be all over it.
Oh yeah,
and something like it just needs a shake up. And I agree with Theo. It would lose some identity, but by keeping the club system like New Zealand has, you still got these amazing clubs like Upper Hutt and Canterbury and Hawke's Bay and all that. But they've just put something on top, which has then created this like crust of like freakish players, which they then go, right, well, he'll fit into an international side, so we'll just pull him out. Granted, New Zealand take a lot of players that weren't necessarily from New Zealand, but just how it is.
They're kidnapping.
Sort that out. Maybe England might do a little bit better as well.
Yeah. And the one thing New Zealand are helped by rugby is their national sport. Every kid grows up wanting to be a rugby player.
Yeah.
Whereas you've got so many, well, say with yourself, you grew up wanting to be a footballer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's another issue. But we have got the richest national governing body in the world at the top of our sport, and I don't know where the money. Well, I do know where the money goes. It goes straight into the national team, and it's spaffed on all sorts of crap that they don't really need, and let alone the players being paid themselves. Which, there's an argument for both. But I think 27 grand or whatever it is per appearance is a little bit ridiculous, personally.
When especially now, I mean, I don't like touching on politics and things like this when it comes to actual politics. But with the cost of living crisis, you think 27 grand just to play one game for England kind of game. It's a bit shit. But going back to the New Zealand thing, they don't just want to be rugby players in New Zealand; they want to be All Blacks, right? Yeah. Which is massively different to what we've got here. People don't want to be, even in football, they don't want to play for England. They want to play for Liverpool. They want to play for Manchester United. They want to play for Arsenal. There is no, and I think it's the same in rugby. If someone is that dedicated to wanting to play rugby, kids nowadays, they probably don't want to be playing for, they probably want to play for Tigers or Sarries or Exeter more than they want to play for England, because actually we don't have that identity in England anymore. We don't have this. Yeah, we like to think we're patriotic, but we are in the dodgy way, like in the bit of the EDL way. Whereas in New Zealand, you're extremely proud. Like I don't know New Zealand international fund, as in don't know how much they get played, but I know they are very, very proud of wearing the shirt. And I'm not saying our lads aren't, but I've always been shocked that you get paid to play rugby for your international team. Hang on, if I got, I mean, I'm never getting there.
It's a big if. It's a big if.
It's a big fucking if. But it should be an honour. I don't think it's a job. If you're playing for your international team, that's an honour. So it's like playing for counties, right? It's the step up. You're representing your county. If you're representing your country, why on earth are we paying you 27 grand a game? That's what everyone else who's playing rugby wants to do.
From that perspective, Phil, obviously you did a tour with England counties. Would you consider that your peak rugby moment? Was there that level of pride for you? It is representing England.
In terms of representative, it was a peak, as in it was nice to wear the rose. Yeah, that was a big thing for me. Like I was kind of meant to do it the year before as well, and the university wouldn't let me do my exams out there. But to be fair, that was in Russia, so probably as easy.
His peak is on Saturday when he gets to finally grace a rugby pitch with me.
You're not coming on. Yeah, it was good. In terms of quality, it wasn't the best rugby I was ever involved in. But it was it's one of the best experiences I've ever had, mainly because I was in Canada, and Canada's absolutely amazing. But it was class, and it was really. I've got all my shirts still. Nathan's got half my England kit. But yeah, it was amazing, and something I was dead proud to do at the time. But I think playing for your country once is like playing for actual England, not England counties. Playing for actual England would be an amazing feeling. I think players do want to play for England. I think that is what everyone aspires to do, but people get comfy. If you're sat in your sort of second or third choice scrum half at a club and you're 22 and you're earning 60 grand, 70 grand a year, it takes a real strong-minded person to go, I'm going to kick on here and become the best player in my country or whatever.
Yeah, and I think that's what I mean. I think I've already heard it wrong where people don't want to play for it, they do, but it is a case of, it's like when you hear people get interviewed and they go, I've been dropped. So, it is what it is. So I'd be gutted. And I know
the thing I remember here is that we've got a totally different media as well. In New Zealand, they don't slag off if you're an All Black, you get absolutely sucked off by the media. You
can get away with all sorts, can't you?
Yeah. It's mental. Whereas here, a lot of the people who write in the media here don't have a clue about what they're writing about, and two, they will happily slag people off, and then the next week think they're the best thing in the world. Like Itoje, how Itoje is bitten his lip for so long, I don't know, because he's the best England player by a million miles, week in, week out. And if he has a slightly quiet game, because sometimes it happens in rugby that either you're not quite on it, or at the end of the day, there's 29 other blokes on the pitch, and you're not always going to get all the opportunities to yourself. And people will just be like, he's lost it. He's off the boil. He's playing too much. He's not playing enough. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, you don't have a fucking clue what you're talking about.
No. But the problem is that we have such a lack of understanding of rugby in this country generally. People then just bang onto it. It's like this. It's like
Brian Moore.
Yeah,
Brian Moore's had a job with the BBC for 20 years.
Yeah,
and he's obviously a Nottingham player, and as a player, he was fantastic in a rudimentary kind of way.
Yeah.
But fuck, his commentary's awful, and his journalism's dreadful.
Yeah, I think he's one of many who understand being controversial gets views.
I wouldn't say Brian Moore completely believes everything he says, but the perfect example for me is Owen Farrell. Whether you like him or not, he is a test match animal, and he will always solidly compete at that level in some aspect or another. But you get people who haven't been playing rugby for a long time but go, he is absolutely awful. How is he even a professional rugby player? And you go, hang on. This is just the narrative you picked up from someone else who's read it in the Daily Mail after a Six Nations game. I get frustrated with him naturally because I'm a fan who thinks he knows everything. But when you get a majority of England squad players and players in the Premier who have played with and against him saying he is one of the best this country has seen in a long time, yet the media disagree, I think I'd much rather listen to those that have played with and against him.
I mean, you look at every coach he's played for has found a way to get him into the team.
Exactly.
Whether it's at fly-off or centre,
yeah,
he has to be in the team. Every coach, England, Lions, whoever.
Yeah.
You have to trust the best coaches in the world to know what they're doing.
And this is interesting about our press as well. Before I move on to a quick little feature, Eddie Jones, worst thing that's happened to England in a long time, the last 6-7 months, signs for Australia. And now I've seen 2 or 3 different English rugby journalists saying the best thing that's happened to Australia in a long time. And you go, come on. There's been no fucking games since now and then. Yeah, Australia are now competing to win the World Cup because Eddie's there. It's like, hang on.
Yeah, they don't know what they're talking about.
No idea. Anyway, Billy, it's been a long time since we've done this. This is pre-Midlands Rugby podcast shit. This is. It's time, not for Phil's package, but Tom's Tinker. Tom's Tinker. I've got some quick fire questions for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, I think. Are you ready? Quick fire questions.
I'm always ready. You know this.
Okay, I know. That's why you've got 2 children. Red or green?
Green.
Knots or Donny?
Knots.
Second row or 12?
12.
Just talk about former teammates of you. Ben Hunter or Chev?
Oh, that's harsh. Ben Hunter.
Both look like lesbians. When you're coaching, seniors or academy?
Seniors.
Favourite opponent and why?
Ooh. Very good question. Chris Halafia.
I meant
why?
Why Chris Halafia?
So my first game for Notts was against London Irish in a pre-season game. And for those who don't know, Chris Halafia was a number 8 who basically just ripped the Premiership apart when he first turned up. Freak of nature. And I remember packing down, I was at 8 and he was at 8, and Hamo, the coach at Notts, said to me, right, he'll go, so let's just be ready for him. So don't scrum too hard, just hit the scrum and then get yourself ready to go. So we both hit the scrum, come up, and he's gone. And he scored. And I've gone, where did he go? And Hamo's like, I don't know, didn't see him.
Under the stick.
So yeah, he was incredible. You know, I was looking at him play against a lot of good players, but he was a freak.
Say his name again.
Chris Halafia.
Yeah, Halafia. Favorite team to play against?
Bedford.
Any reason?
Always a good game.
Always
they're freaks of nature. Their ground's incredibly odd. It was always just good fun.
Is Neath the worst shooting you've ever had?
Oh yeah, because he stood on my balls.
Oh, was that That was before 2 kids as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, pussy. I should have done it better. And for the Paviers listeners, John T or Jim?
John T, because Jim doesn't play anymore.
Oh wow, he's definitely not playing next season now, is he?
No, he's not. He's told me today.
Oh, right. We're at the 40-minute mark, but you are now head coach.
Give them more.
Give them more if they want to listen to me, you, and Theo talking. That's what everyone wants to listen to. I mean,
our insights on the R review are unbeatable, Tom.
I mean, I think Bill Bowman's going to ring me up saying, and go, can you 3 please come to the board? Let's have a chat. Let's find it out. Here's a cucumber sandwich and fuck off. So you are now, is it public knowledge you're head coach of Paviers RFC, or is it just people on this call that know? As in,
I think it's generally common knowledge.
I've just not seen a press release. I just assumed it'd been not so.
I refuse to have one.
Tom, aren't you in charge of the press releases?
Potentially, yeah. Maybe I'll get that out at the end of the season. But next season, technically, you're coaching a team back in the Midlands, so you are now a valid
Midlands coach.
Midlands podcast host is what I was going to say. But what are you looking forward to most being back in the Midlands? Apart, you can't say the travel.
Oh. I just, it just puts everyone straight back in a better mood. We're a Midlands club. We've always been a Midlands club. Last year was unbelievably tough physically. Like the quality of the league we went into was really high, and we weren't geared up for it. I think we showed ourselves at home against most teams because we didn't have to travel multiple hours to do so. Plus the availability of players was a lot different. So this year we're hoping to have sort of an available squad a lot more, and just a bit of rivalry rugby.
Yeah,
like Christ, we haven't really had any rivalry games for years, and suddenly we're back in a league with not only Newark, Long Eaton, Matlock, Melbourne, but also
fucking Mellish
are in our league, which is just huge.
Not when was the last time?
That's as local as it can get.
Yeah.
They're 4 miles away, club to club, and it's a short 4 miles.
Yeah, I was surprised it was as much as 4.
Yeah, it's quite a long way up that hill.
It's through forest land. As the crow flies, it's probably not 4.
Oh, as the crow flies, it's a lot closer, yeah, but by road. So I think that's just going to make for a great season for the guys. And, one of the reasons I stopped doing professional rugby was because I was sick of travelling. Came back, did 2 seasons in East Mids 1 or whatever it was at the time. And then we got promoted into the Midlands and suddenly we were travelling again. So that'll make a big difference for me personally. And I'm just looking forward to it. We're on a big change. We're going from having a very strong elderly squad to suddenly having a squad that just requires some youth and invigoration in it. We're going to change up the way we play. Not that Theo's particularly fond of it. He's all for it. He's just not fond of it.
He'd be for it if he was a spectator.
I'm trying my best to retire to the second team, but still dragged in.
It's because I'm not fit enough yet.
Yeah, Tom's going to take over at tight head. That's what we've agreed.
Can I not be coaching then? No, I think it's going to be great. Yeah, I think, we don't necessarily expect to get promoted next season, nor do we really want to. We could do with a few years of sort of generating some of these younger lads through. I think that's where we're going to have to start again. I think COVID and a few other factors meant we've worked out the other day, I think we've lost 5 years worth of players. Because they've either been at uni and COVID's hit, they've been at uni during COVID, or they've had COVID and then gone to uni. So there's been like a 5-year gap almost, where lads just haven't come back or rarely come back. So we've lost a lot of players. Even if you only get 2 players a year, you've lost 10 players there. So that's huge for us. And the second team are also in the league next year, and that's obviously relatively local, apart from your trips to Claythorpe or whatever. So it should be a nice club atmosphere. Yeah. It should be a really nice club atmosphere. We've got 22 games. Fuck knows what they are if you're going to do with the Papa John's Cup or the Dorito Bowl or whatever they're going to call it next year. But
either way, it sounds tasty.
Either way, we're fucking it off straight away. And the NLD can sort their fucking act out. But other than that, it's I'm really looking forward to it. I think mentally I could do a bit of a rest during June. I think we all could. Ideally, we wouldn't be playing now, but we feel like we have to sort of fulfill the NLD fixtures. Obviously, a lot of our counterparts haven't felt the same way, but we'll do it because that's what the Pavey's way is. So we'll keep working like that, and it's still a community club, so we're here for anyone and everyone who wants to play, and we will continue to act the same way we've always acted, just with I say a new face, fucking very similar face to the last coach, to be fair. Half the genetics.
I like this from you, head coach. You've come and you've gone, we don't think we're going to go up, and we don't particularly want to tick. So if we don't go up, no one can call us out. Yeah, we are still one of the most proud clubs in the NLD because we're actually bothering to play the cup games. So basically, Paviours are still the best team in Notts. That's all I've got from this conversation so far.
We're still the best team in Notts, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, 100%. Apart from Notts. Phil, this is a big moment.
Just enjoy the joke.
This is a big moment for you, Theo. I hope you're prepared. If you're not, you're fucking fuming. I will block you out from the rest of this when I edit it. But have you got any wise words for us before we close down the podcast?
That's far too early. I need about 10 minutes to prepare for that. We're still
every week.
I've given Phil about 3 years. All he's ever given me is don't eat yellow snow. And that was about 2 weeks after Christmas.
And you know what? That was the first thing that came to mind to me. So
was it really?
Maybe we are related.
I do need
No,
to.
do you have to? You want me to get the?
Let's not get the family tree up. We've not got enough time to get the family tree up. Basically, Phil and Theo are not related, but they are related. That's right, isn't it?
No.
They're lovers. I think they're lovers. Anyway, Phil.
There's no relationship, but friendship.
Friendship. When there are tall ships, there are small ships. There are long ships, there are short. But the best type of ships are friendships, and we'll leave it on that one. Phil, thanks for coming on.
You're very welcome. I didn't have a choice.
Would you, we had no other guests. Would you like to come on a live podcast one day?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Again, I'll probably have to be there. I'll probably have to organise it as well, won't I?
Yeah, probably because I've been trying for 2 years, and
well, you've been threatening for 2 years. I don't know how much you've been trying.
Yeah, Tom, we really should do that. It's not hard, is it?
Considering at the Pavia's Ball, I am now MCing. I think this is the way in to me being on the circuit, so we best do it before I have to charge. Theo, thank you for coming on, mate. Have you enjoyed yourself?
Oh, absolutely. I've learned a lot about Phil. I'm surprised I did.
Did you know he went to Newark?
No idea. So we do have to disown him now.
Yeah, what a wanker. Should we kick him off?
It was actually, you know who advised me on that as well?
Daddy Egg.
Correct.
Of course, absolute traitor. Anyway, see you later. Bye.